All right, that's enough of the GTA loading screen. We got an important guest today. Time is money round here. If you've been hanging around the NFT streets, the art streets, the Web3, if you've ever seen an episode of Club Top Shot in your entire career, which you undoubtedly have, the We Do a Little pod, what am I missing here? We got a very important guest. He has infiltrated all those spaces. He's dominated all those spaces, and now he pops up in the UD streets trying to take our lunch money, and we're going to find out why. Because I ain't too happy that I got to deal with sharps like this in my streets now, Andy. What's up, man?
Hey, thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Yeah, man. So what gave you the itch, man? What gave you the itch to I know you were a recreational UD player for like a long time, and then now all of a
Yeah.
sudden I'm seeing you every day.
So back before COVID, I was playing on FanDuel pretty intense. I had my own models, was doing stuff there. Was like, I wasn't playing with like crazy bankroll because it was a different time. But like for the most part, was playing every single night, max entering a couple tournaments and all of that. I love basketball. Always been like casually playing, and then started doing that basically that whole season up until COVID. I was playing pretty intensely, and then crypto kind of took over my life uh, for real. And yeah, so then I've been using Underdog for a while. Yeah, I invested in Underdog as well, so I'm pumping my bags here. But I always like to at least warn people. But I'm a huge fan, and so I would play a lot of the NFL. I actually like, maybe this is a hot take or not the right stream for this. I think the NFL Underdog is a better setup than the NBA. I think that there's definitely some flaws with their NBA setup, which is one of the reasons that I like playing it. But yeah, I love basketball. And
Let's pause
so,
right there because that's a really cool segue to chat about. What makes you say that? Like, is it the positional designation? Is it the flex only stuff that makes you say that?
yeah, so I think that I prefer the positional designation stuff. Also, for anyone
Mhm.
watching or listening, sorry, there's literally a man outside. He's gotten down further. You guys can see him now, and he's cleaning our windows, and so good timing there.
Yo, how many
So if you hear
floors
me
up is
laughing,
that? How many floors up is
not
that?
that high. We're on the sixth floor.
Oh,
Okay.
okay. Man,
So
I
it
was
was like
scared
some
of
Tom
shit.
Cruise like espionage stuff, like trying to get the Andy secrets like in real time.
Yeah,
Mission
he's trying to find
Impossible,
my
get the
suitcase.
model.
Yeah, they're looking for it, man. Trust me, I know the feeling.
Oh man.
But yeah, so I think like I like the positional scarcity stuff, and like I think that that's super interesting. And like I remember when Underdog like first started doing stuff, I was just like drafting Travis Kelsey in the first round every single draft because I was like, how are people not doing this? Like tight end suck. It's Travis Kelsey. Like what's happening here?
Yep.
And I think something about that is like kind of lost in the NBA, just like super flex everything drafts. Um, and I guess like I kind of think that people try to get too cute with it in the NBA drafts, which is why I love playing it. I'm a very boring NBA underdog player. I almost exclusively draft by ADP.
Okay,
Oh, wow.
interesting.
Yeah, but yeah, I don't know. I think the NFL one offers more like thought. You have to be a little more thoughtful about stuff. With the NBA one, it's essentially to be like managing exposures and like some amount of risk tolerance for stuff, and then just hoping that the people in your drafts try to get really cute with it, and
It's
you get guys like
it-
way too late.
Yeah, that's definitely something that we've talked about on here, like as far as because we dabble with like projection systems, whatnot. Like we refer to it as like table stakes, like at this point, like just to like have that at the back of your mind, like when you're especially an underdog, because there can be discrepancies sometimes. And we've talked about how like NBA projections are just sharper. Like they are going to be closer to the actual outcomes than like NFL projections, and that obviously comes from more sample sizes and like there's just less variance in basketball because there's so many events happening all at once. So I think that's interesting that you say that. Is it so? Are you like very much into the wisdom of the crowds in the NBA streets, or are you ever like, or I mean, I'm sure you're still like finding edges, right, in ADP at the same time.
Yeah, kind of the strategy that I've generally taken. And I will say caveat, I don't max center because like who the hell has time to do that? I'm not, but I'm doing probably 50 to 100 entries per night, depending on how confident I feel on the slate and how comfortable I am auto drafting a bit.
Okay.
Those are kind of like the main caveats there. But I mostly do my drafts very early and very late. And I try to kind of like barbell it a little bit. And so the one challenge there is like ETR rankings or ETR's projections don't come out until like midday. Like I wish they came out earlier. That would be really, really helpful. But I generally try to like take more stands early in the day when ADPs are a little bit more fluid and there's also just like not very many red badges drafting. And I feel like the most ridiculous drafts I ever get, I draft at like 7 a.m. when I wake up and I'm in bed. And that's when you get like the what the fuck is happening kind of draft. But then by the time it's like an hour before lock, I'm very much like a wisdom of the crowd type of believer. And I think that generally plays out too. If you like look at, it's one of the things that I try to do pretty consistently is every night I'll look through the top 25 lineups and just try to like see what's going on. And like, it's very rare that someone drafted a player more than a couple picks above it or like before their ADP in a draft. And so like, I think I value fading players at their ADP. And like, there'll definitely be players where I'm not really drafting them at ADP and I'll pick the next guy down. But I'm almost never, even when it's like obvious, like there's been a couple times like Tyrese Halliburton where it's like, what the fuck is going on between his ADP and the amount of points he's going to put up? When you look at the lineups that are winning, though, they're not the lineups that are drafting Tyrese Halliburton 2 rounds early because they know that that's his actual, like, where he should be drafted. It's the person who's taking him at ADP and then drafting an awesome team there. So, like, I guess I also just really play to win, not just to try to, like, break even every night.
That makes sense. There's a couple things I want to kind of unpack there. You said the auto drafting and the 50 to 100. So for you, how many are you drafting at a time? Like, do you feel comfortable drafting like multiples? Like when you wake up at 7 there, are you doing 5 at a time? Or are you doing 2 at a time? What do you like to get a feel for? And then the auto drafting, what determines when it's viable and when it's not viable in your mind?
Yeah, it depends. It also depends on just like the day and how much I have going on. Like there's some days where I'm just too busy with work stuff and like I can have a draft going on the side and just like not really pay attention. But there's other days where I think the most I've ever done is 20 drafts at once. Where I have like an ultra wide monitor and I'm drafting 20 drafts at once and just going back and forth. They can get a little overwhelming. And so but there I have to have a pretty high degree of confidence that I'm comfortable auto drafting if I have to. And then really all I'm doing is like checking and saying, okay, am I going to draft some really stupid thing like Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan or like something like that where I just like, I don't want to put these two players on the same team, no matter what their ADP is, or different things like that, and just try to avoid those, but then generally just kind of let the draft play out. In the mornings, I don't do that as much, or like generally any time that isn't pretty close to lock where I mostly trust the wisdom of the crowd. Because I feel like even like most days, like during the day, I will have custom rankings and be drafting with custom rankings. But with those, I'm way more kind of picky, and just because I have someone ranked higher than someone else doesn't mean I'm going to take them, and I'll try to be more thoughtful. And so it's a lot harder to do a bunch of drafts at once then.
That makes sense. With your custom rankings and stuff, where do those derive from? Is that a little bit of bro science? Is that mainly projections? Is that what are you working off there when you build out your own rankings?
Yeah, for now, I haven't really had the time to like get back in and fully like kick up my old models that I was doing. And like, I mean, honestly, they weren't amazing. I'm not a Drew Meyer or anything. I was a winning player, but I wasn't incredible by any means. And so for the most part, I use ETR when they're up. My general feeling is they're going to be better at this than I am, and it's their job. And then I'll check a couple of the other like rankings that are around in the mornings, but it's generally a good amount of bro science of my own personal feelings. And then, so yeah, I kind of like draft in 3 phases, which is like my own feelings in the morning, and then rankings in the midday once they're live, and then generally just ADP close to lock.
Cool. Yeah, no, I
feel
respect
that.
that. I like that.
I
Yeah.
feel that.
So when you're thinking through some of that, like what we like to dub bro science, when you're thinking through some of that stuff on your own merit, you mentioned like the DeMar and the Levine thing. Are there certain things that you just have like no fly zone? Like I will not correlate this player with this player. I will not play a game total that is below this. I will not play a certain player who's on a minutes restriction. Are there certain things for you that are just like, those are X'd out of my player pool no matter what?
Yeah, I think for me the biggest thing, and again this goes back to like my general strategy is like first or last. And so for me the biggest thing is just like trying to get my own personal feeling on what their actual ceiling is. And so like when Devin Booker's played 25 minutes coming back from injury, I just don't really want him on my lineup because like sure maybe in those 25 minutes he's really hot and he gets 55 fantasy points and like that's his absolute ceiling and like that's awesome, but like I don't really think that's going to happen. And so I just would rather not. I try very hard to not middle whatever I'm doing. And so like a huge mistake that I made yesterday was not drafting enough Tatum. And that was just like in retrospect, super obvious, where it was just like, that was a very clear not middling things. And it's either your first or your last with a lineup like that. Although it's funny, the person who won last night did not have Tatum on their
I know.
team.
How crazy was that, right?
Mikal Bridges, baby. Why draft Jason Tatum in the 6th round when you can have Mikal Bridges? That's what I've always said. That's what I have always said.
1-to-1 right there.
1-to-1.
I couldn't
But
believe
yeah,
it.
and then like outside of that, it's mostly just like I like taking players who are questionable in the mornings. I feel like they slip a lot. People are too risk averse to that, and like you can just set your swaps and like it's not that big of a deal. Especially if it's in the 5th or 6th round. It's like pick Jamal Murray in the 6th round every single time he's questionable. Because there's a chance that he plays and there's a chance that he drops 60, and if not, whatever, I slide back 3 picks.
Yep.
And then like sometimes back-to-backs and stuff, but I try not to care about that quite as much.
Okay, yeah, fair. I think the biggest thing for me with back-to-backs is the rest thing, the Q tags thing. Because the injury reports haven't come out and we don't know who's going to get what I like to call a midday downgrade, even though it's not actually a midday downgrade. It's just when the report's coming out. But like it does have a huge value shift impact, I've noticed. 2nd day of back-to-back, and then the Q tag pops up. So if I'm taking those guys early in the day, and then all of a sudden everybody else is getting ADP value on them because they get a Q tag associated to them, they get 10 spots of difference on me. That's the biggest way in which I play it in the morning. Granted, as a West Coast guy who wakes up at about 8:30 a.m., that doesn't really matter to me because you guys are
East Coast.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
I totally agree. And like it definitely can burn you. Like I had a couple of these LeBron Qs where he didn't play and he was Q, where I had too much LeBron in the morning. But that's an example of just like I'm comfortable taking that risk. And like, you just have to have good bankroll management and know that like this is how I play the game. And if it works, it works. And if it doesn't, I'll get them next time.
I think that's a cool segue there just into, I think there's 2 things to unpack there. We're talking about exposures, and it kind of sounds like we talk about it. We always frame it like this exploitative versus balanced strategy, whether you get balanced in the beginning with your exposures and then you kind of stay flat all day, or whether you get hyper exploitative, then get balanced later. It sounds like you're more exploitative in the morning, and then closer to lock, you get more balanced, and naturally that balance is out your exposures. But are you actively tracking throughout the day like, oh man, I can't get over 30% AD today. I can't get over 30% insert player X. Is that something you're actively like being cognizant of, or if it's just kind of like let the chips fall where they may?
Yeah, it is something that I try to track. My general and very bro science-y model for it that I have currently is like, if they're not like a superstar kind of player, I'm not comfortable being more than double the field.
Okay.
And so like if they're going in every draft, I'll get up to 32%. If they're not going in every draft, then I'll want to, kind of try to play that by ear. But I've had too many nights where like, when Cam Thomas was going crazy, I was just hammering Cam Thomas every single game. Like every night I was hammering Cam Thomas. And there was one night where I also had like way too much Christian Wood. And it just like totally fucked my lineups for the night, because just like every lineup where I had Cam Thomas, I also had Christian Wood get me like 20 points. And it was like, he's not a good enough player for me to be like risking, like his ceiling is not good enough for me to risk like the rest of my slate to have that happen. And so, if there is a Cam Thomas like situation where it's like, why is he going in the second to last round when they have like 4 players who can play basketball on their team? It's different. But when it's just like, hey, Luka's hurt, maybe I'll play their center, I try to pretty actively gauge that.
Okay. So safe to say you wouldn't have had 61% Miles Turner last night on 105 entries like your boy, huh?
Jesus. Something just keep to yourself, John.
He was popping in the sheet. He was popping in the model, Nez. He was popping. Numi led me down this road. Numi owes me $512.
Anytime you're lockstep with Chip, man, you just gotta like question your process just slightly.
Hey, I broke even last night. I still broke even.
Okay,
Perfect.
there you go.
A middling result. Perfect. I paid the rake for you sickos.
So Andy, it sounds like you weren't, just to kind of go back to the Tatum thing last night, it sounds like you weren't quite on the Tatum 6-round like D tag as much as like you wish you were. Were you mixing that in 50%, 20%, or like just like you were just avoiding it by accident?
I was pretty convinced he wasn't going to play.
Yeah.
And so I was generally fading it and instead doing Derek White on the Q tag. And that it was one of those things where it was like the slightly safer thing to do, but I didn't pepper in enough Tatum alongside that to have it work out. And I mean, my net was like fine. I was basically about even with very little Tatum and like almost not nearly enough in the 6th round. And then I caught up a little bit drafting him in like the 3rd round, like right when the news broke. Right when it broke, I jumped into like 10 drafts and just took him in the 3rd round as much as I could, and that helped.
Yeah, I think there's different levels to that, because if you get in certain rooms when a news nugget drops, you can still exploit it. But we were talking about it on air yesterday, and we were doing it. We did it twice on the show where we took him with the D tag, and then the news dropped, and Numi was like, "Yo, we got it, like." It's happening, and we jump in a draft, and everybody has the same premonition at that time to be like, get in a draft, get Tatum. But if you get in a draft and I see Andy in there, I see Nez, I see Numi in there, I see Chip in there, I'm just like, you know what? This is the draft that I'm not getting him. Like that, I'm going to scoop some other value. So I think there is a layer of player identification in each of these lobbies as to like what you could do. Is that something you focus on, where you'll look like, hey, I don't know these screen names, I'm going to, plan my build around not knowing these screen names? Or for you, is it still just,
a little bit? I think I kind of in the same way that I was talking about generally just like being an ADP drafter. I guess like the actual version of what I mean by that is the way I kind of think about it is in the same way that like when you're sports gambling and you want to beat the book, I like to try to beat the ADP for players. And so that's generally how I track it and how I try to manage things is if everyone is generally drafting a player at 10th and I can get him for 12th, if that can be my ADP for him still with like the same exposure, then I think that is like a good player to be drafting, then I've like beaten the book on the draft. And so it really depends, like, when I'm in a draft with like Chip and all these different people whose names I recognize, I know that I'm probably not going to get anything crazy like that. And so then maybe I will try to differentiate the other way and I'll reach a little bit for a player I haven't really gotten very much of or something to try to mix it up. But honestly, more so in those drafts than anything, I like to just watch who other players are drafting and see like who is drafting players outside of their ADP and like what kind of lineups are they constructing, and try to learn more that way of like, what are these other people who I think are sharp? What are they doing that I'm not doing? And what can I like learn from that for the day? And then use that more in the drafts that aren't quite as sharp.
That's how I've gotten by not knowing shit about hoops. I just go in there. I go, yo, what's Andy doing? What's Chip doing? What's Lee doing? What's Numi doing? Okay, yep. All right, we'll take this. Yo, where's T-Box at? Where's RT at? Okay, cool. Yep, got it. All right, yep. And then I make my custom ranks based off what the smart people. I know I punt the first 5 buy-ins. I punt the first 5 buy-ins for sure because I'm just monitoring the field at that point, right? Oh man, that's good. Yo, shout out baby Stevie, little second place last night. GMs there, and Sam Olsen just scooping everything every damn night over and over again. Go back on vacation. We're done with you, Sam. Great player in his own right. What else can we talk about?
Well, Andy, I was curious because you said you're like a casual fan in basketball and whatnot. Do you have like I'm not familiar. Who's like? Do you have like a favorite team or like a favorite like player that
Yeah,
you,
so
like,
I'm
watch in real life?
I'm an Oklahoma City Thunder fan.
Whoa,
which is fun.
How did that happen? Because that's like
thoughts and prayers.
Yeah, it's definitely pretty random. As someone who's grew up in New Jersey and has lived in the Northeast my entire life, but in high school, I graduated high school in 2012, and so that was like right when the baby Thunder were really a very, very fun team to watch.
Yeah.
And so I just gravitated towards that team. That was also when I started to get into basketball. And I so I'm a Patriots fan and I don't really care about baseball. So I don't have really allegiances to, there aren't very many like North Jersey teams. The Nets were whatever, they're the Nets. Yeah. And so just kind of decided I liked the Thunder. Harden was my favorite of the 3 players. So of course he got traded away first, but just kind of stuck with him.
Nice. Have you ever considered, I don't know if you've ever like looked for funsies, the courtside ticket prices for Thunder home games?
Oh, I've looked. They're like
bad. They're like $300 and you're courtside and you can trip your favorite player. It's incredible. Something that I've like legitimately considered. It's pretty fun. So do you have any like allegiances to like players when you're drafting that like you just like, you know what, I don't care what projections say, like this is my guy and like he's like, do you have any like ride or dies like that in these streets?
There's no way Sam's also a Thunder fan too. Like this is crazy, man. I'm not about this right now.
I try really, really hard not to do that.
I could tell.
I would say there's some nights where Luka isn't 1-1 where I'm like, are we sure that Luka's not 1-1?
Yeah.
And like I definitely have that happen a good amount. I think I probably overdraft LeBron still. I would say outside of that, let me think. There definitely are some. I tend to get a lot of Jaren Jackson Jr.
Oh yeah.
Oh boy. Talk about the complete opposite of me.
Dude, I also tend to get a lot of Zach LaVine.
Last night he's sitting there at like 24 and I just moved him to 36. I got buried last night because I just was like, oh, no.
Dude, I can't believe JJJ at home with cooked books and you don't want them. Like,
the stocks at home is ridiculous. The stocks at home is getting insane. I can't.
9 last night in like the first half, and you didn't want it. Anyways. That's cool. So glad to see that you.
I also do take Brunson a lot. That's my I went to Villanova. So I'm a Nova.
Nice.
Nova guy.
Okay, thanks. Yeah. I'm surprised you weren't on Bridges. You're two Nova guys.
I mean, I definitely drafted him a bit, but not last night.
Yeah,
but like their first and second game of the team, I was drafting him.
That was kind of interesting. Mm-hmm. I mean, obviously, like you watch basketball. Like we know Bridges has these type of performances in him where he's just like can just be an absolute dog. To get on that last night, I kind of think, hindsight's always 20/20, but at a Nets team that kind of doesn't have an identity right now, like it seems like I wonder if that's going to forever boost Bridges' price because it's like him and Dinwiddie is like the offensive like guys right now. So that'll be interesting. But I'm with you. I love Brunson. Love the Knicks to take them. But no, that's cool to hear. That's interesting.
And Chip in the chat. I am a never Simmons person. I'll never draft him.
He's buried me a couple times this year. Like, sixth round Simmons. There's nobody else. Like, there's nobody else. Claxton's the only guy.
All he has to do is get a quadruple double with all 10s. And we're there.
Yeah, 10s across the board. Yeah. Oh my god. Actually, that's okay. Let's talk. I got two more questions, and then let's talk about today's slate. I want to know, what do you think some of the most important, like IRL factors that we can like port into our projections and our I don't know, rankings and stuff like that on each given night. Like, what is the most applicable real life NBA knowledge for these games?
As far as NBA knowledge, honestly, I don't think, like, outside of just like general projections, I feel like not that much matters there. Other than like, I think what matters is recognizing players' upside, and just like sometimes there's guys who are going in like the 5th round who are just outside of a total anomaly, never going to give you enough points to get first place. And like if you're playing, name a name. Let me pull up like last night's drafts. And
Evan Mobley, is that a name?
every once in a while he will, but like I think he's like a good example, or like I almost feel like Terry Rozier can fit into that in a lot of ways. If you're playing like a bigger slate where it's like, sure, maybe he'll drop you 45, like maybe he'll drop you 55, but like, are you really going to win if you have him on your team?
Right.
And a lot of this is mostly thinking about the bigger slates like last night, where you have a lot of players you can draft from. I think that's important, but I think really the biggest thing is just like recognizing that other people are going to draft poorly and trying to take advantage of that. I think that's like more so than any basketball thing, like people's desire to like differentiate themselves from the field is like, I think, a net negative in the underdog style of drafting. And like, I think that the best way you can differentiate yourself from the like more casual player in underdog drafts is just to draft the best players, which sounds so fucking stupid. But
I mean, Andy, I'm right here, man. I'm right here. Like, I mean,
what I'm trying to say is you should really try drafting better players.
Oh, I love it. That's actually a good segue into both my next question and tonight's slate. Is with you, does your play style change based on slate size, or are there certain slates you will just sit out because of depth or whatever? When you're looking at the NBA slate from a macro perspective, like going into tonight, are you excited? Like, hey, I got depth of knowledge on a 3-gamer that other people don't have, or are you more like, maybe not tonight. I'll max enter those 10 gamers.
I think it depends. Like tonight's draft is just really boring. It's like, it's just to me not a fun draft. I've done a couple, and it gets down to like, okay, do I want Terrence Mann or like, or you know, these guys who are just like not really gonna be very exciting to watch play basketball. Like Chris Stapps is like the 2nd overall pick. That's about all you need to know. But it definitely does change. Like I almost feel like there's kind of 3 different types of slates, where you have like the ones where there are like outside, like in any normal like standard deviation of games. Obviously, there's outliers, and you never know. But like generally, there are slates where it's like the top 50 or so players have like a realistic probability of being on the winning team. And then there's slates where it's like the top 30 players do. And it's like you basically, I think it's essentially a mistake to draft anyone outside of the top 36 players. And basically, like if they're not getting drafted every draft, like you probably don't need to be drafting them. Because like maybe it's the player who's going to pop and like they're going to drop 70 like Mikal Bridges, but there's going to be like maybe one lineup that has them. And it just like the odds of the person also drafting the nuts for everything else is just pretty low. And so it's like this really low probability outcome thing that probably won't ever happen. And then there's nights like tonight where there's like 15 players who you can feel confident that they would probably be on the winning team. And then like, who the hell knows? And so nights like tonight are interesting in that, like, I think you could basically draft anyone who's going to get minutes tonight and make a case for why they should be draftable, because like the people who you're drafting in the last round are going to play 20 minutes tonight, or, you know, there might not even be starters. And so anything can happen, like literally anything can happen. and that's interesting. But I think it's kind of like those types of like 3 different types of slates where it's like I have a 50-person player pool, I have a 30-person player pool, or I have everyone who's playing tonight as my player pool.
So with each of those style slates, do you manage your exposures completely differently? Like, will tonight be something that you're like flatter in the rounds? Like we heard you talk about on Club Top Shot about like 25% as kind of like the benchmark for the first 3 rounds. Did you suggest something like that, where it was like 25% exposure through the first 3 rounds, and then from the 3rd round onward, you felt more comfortable getting like, beating ADP in that range opposed to staying tethered with it? For like a short slate like tonight, we got 36 going. How deep are we going on that draft board, and how, small, I guess, are our exposures getting late? Like, are we going to have, a couple shares of like 1% own, I don't know, who's it? Javion Carter tonight. Javion Carter.
We might. Chris Middleton just got ruled out. So.
Oh, did he really?
Jesus
shit.
Christ.
Oh, well, so tonight's a weird one too, because like just being first pick is so much better than everything else.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
it's just not even close. And so that makes things weird. But yeah, I think so. Like, I think tonight is a good example of a night where just like straight drafting ADP is probably not the best idea, because like I don't think ADP means that much after like the 2nd round. And so like I think it does make a lot more sense to try to differentiate, do interesting things, because like there just aren't that many good players who are playing. But I generally have not had incredible success on like 3-game slates. So also, who knows? What the fuck do I know?
No, I tend to agree. These short slates I find very difficult, and that's probably largely to do with my lack of depth knowledge. Like I'm pretty good with the top 50 now, but when we start getting in the weeds here, I got to look at Numi and be like, "Yo, man, tell me something nice about Kendrick Nunn. Like, just tell me one nice thing about him." Oh man, let's talk about tonight's slate, and let's draft a couple. We always start here, Andy, where we just kind of look at get a macro view of the slate. I guess we can add Middleton here as that big out tag. Man, what are we looking at tonight? Numi, I haven't heard much from you in a minute here. Take me away here. Guide me through the weeds, my friend.
It's disgusting. Like Andy said, it's not fun. In preparation to just to get a feel for it, I'm 30 deep, and I've thrown up each time. It's really bad. I when it comes down to these small slates, I the same thing. I just look for guys that I think have the possibility to step into more minutes, and then at that point, that's what you're searching for when you get down there. I will say, the one thing that I've started out on this slate is I will continue to stay, even though I've been wrong now twice with Marcus Smart. I pounded on the table. They would be just idiotic to bring him back for 1 game against the Pistons and then have an all-star break. I don't think DeMar DeRozan plays. There's no reason to play him if he has a significant injury. He's already been out. So I've been doing a strategy which can easily bury you, and that's DeMar's going to be out, and I've been soaking up the Iodasumu in like the last round when I can get it, and getting like I think Alex, yeah, exactly, Kobe White. The thing is, White has a little bit of a higher ADP, but I've been playing that narrative. We won't get into that right now, but I've been just kind of playing that because I think that's where you can kind of soak up the ADP shift. That being said, I still take DeMar. I've been taking DeMar in like the 3rd and 4th when I get them there. It's like that's when I'll take DeMar. I feel like that's when you can beat the market, because all of a sudden if DeMar plays, he moves up or just stays right at that ADP. And
if he doesn't play, if you're getting in the 3rd or 4th round, it's not the end of the world.
Exactly. And that's been my thought, is like I'm not trying to eat a 2nd round, maybe 3rd. I got him in the 4th the first 2 times I got him, and I was like, ooh, maybe I can push it. I really haven't. So I started to maybe take him in the back end of the 3rd. I felt that's where I'm more comfortable with taking a swap. But yeah, Not a fun slate. Like you said, if you don't get Giannis, you just feel like SOL.
So we said the 101 obviously is like Giannis without any shred of a doubt.
Yeah.
Any candidates for like a dark horse like 102?
My projection that I like to use, I'll use RG, stochastic, just my thought of someone. I think Anthony Edwards has a ceiling that can put up.
That's what I was looking for.
Especially with Beal and Kuzma back. It would be different if one of the three wasn't there. Now, we could get nonsense of one of the three sitting. Like, we just got Middleton. So, like, this like can continue to dominoes to affect. We got Middleton, and they weren't even on a back-to-back or anything. They just said, nah, he's out. We're just going to give him. When, honestly, I was thinking maybe he could be in line to get a couple extra minutes since he would get a break.
I thought it was like, yo, they're ramping him up now.
So that just literally, and that just proves that, like, I try and play my knowledge into it, and that's how far it goes. But on these small slates, when you don't, like Andy said, when you don't have 50 to 30 players, you feel comfortable of ceiling. I feel like playing narratives is I kind of do the same thing. I will say that style. The night before when the contest dropped, there'll be no ADP or some pretty crazy ADPs in which I've known guys that are going off. So Alfred Sengun all of a sudden would be basically way down in projection, way down in ADP when he was on that hot run. So I would jump in the night before and just try and wait. And so, like you said, just get the value in ADP and then jump Alfred Sengun and get him in the 4th and 5th. Cause I know at one point he's going to be going in the 3rd and 2nd on this slate.
Right. Yeah.
That's how I play it. And then I'll put in my own takes. And then when I get closer to lock, it's like, okay, now I have the most knowledge. Then I'll really, really rely on projections. I feel that's the way I do it. The results haven't been there on those big slates, but yeah, it's once you get past like pick 15, you're vying for minutes. That's every pick. You're like, yeah, like Jaden McDaniels is going to be out there playing about 30 minutes. What are you going to get?
Yeah, I took him in my last draft, and I was like, I feel pretty good about getting him.
Exactly. Yeah, you feel good about Jaden McDaniels, and you're just like, woo, all right, this is feeling nice. And like you said, when you get to that, like the three, it's like you get the back end of the draft is the worst starting position, but you end up getting, I feel like, a little extra value. You'll get a guy that can slip into that range if you're at that turn. When I've been at the 1 turn, I've just been, whenever I have Giannis, it's so just dried up. I'm just like, oh my gosh. So
yeah, my one Giannis draft I had was weird, but I went with him, and I was able to get, I don't know how I felt about this, but I went with Levine and Vooch on the turn in a similar DeRozan not playing style game.
On a 3-gamer, that's totally fine.
Eric Gordon doesn't feel good.
Eric Gordon has been a click of mine in he's in the 6th where I can get him there. I'm like, ooh, I like that. I don't know why I like that. I'm like,
it feels safe. It feels safe, right?
Yeah, he feels safe. Well, it's just I'm looking at this, and then I look at his box score. I look at what he's doing. I'm like, oh, if you can just put up what you did there on this slate, that's perfect. That's all I need. Yeah, I don't need a spectacular score.
Play the John Wall role and get 18 minutes and give me 22 points, 21 fantasy points. Yeah, like that's all we need.
I mean, if Rudy Gobert's out, it's the Naz Reid slate again. You know what I mean? Like Naz Reid.
Yeah.
So you have that whole narrative, and Gobert.
I'm trying to get ahead of that one.
Yeah, Gobert is priced like this is the Nez thing that he talked about. The projections will always tell you he will always be a value compared to where he is in ADP. Right. But then we know what he actually does out there. So it's like you kind of got to bro science that in terms. So it's like I've taken him when I can get him and then hoping for a swap. But it's like I see Naz Reid actually being taken sometimes now, and I'm like, just don't take him in my Rudy Gobert drafts, please.
I think getting ahead of the Naz Reid bit because he's just such a good fantasy point per minute guy. Another one is getting ahead of the Drummond one because he's so good on a per minute basis.
He's viable on a
if you get Vooch, he's viable on a 3-gamer. But if you get DeMar DeRozan out and you get a little bit of foul trouble for Vooch and he's got to play 22 minutes, 28 minutes, maybe not 28, but who am I kidding? He gets 23 minutes or something. He's kind of nice. This is one thing I wanted to ask you real quick, Andy, that Numi's referencing there. Numi puts together a sheet where it incorporates kind of like all 3 big projection models where we kind of start with the stochastic one, the RG one, and then add in ETR later that day. And we kind of create, or I say we, Numi, Numi creates like kind of like a combo ceiling ranking and then like juxtaposes it against ADP, so we can kind of see this combo difference between ceiling rank and ADP, and kind of does this for each slate. Do you think I just want to get your opinion on like this approach, and also get your opinion on like what you think of like a combo ceiling thing, and kind of taking the subjectivity of each model out and blending them into one. Are we doing ourselves a disservice, or do you think that's a sharp way to approach it?
No, I think it's definitely the right way to do it. I mean, that was like when I was running my own model stuff forever ago. That was my strategy. Is like I had my own stuff that I was cooking, and then I was also using, at the time, Awesemo and those different groups as well, and kind of using that as like a sanity check on my stuff, essentially, to kind of, again, wisdom with the crowd. I'm a big wisdom with the crowd guy. And so, yeah, no, I think this makes a lot of sense. I think what like kind of scares me about like the pure like ranking, just like drafting based on ranking stuff, and why I don't do it for that large a percentage of my drafts, is just like, it really depends on your execution of like a system like this, where it's like, are you really going to take Vooch 4th overall in a draft? Like, I don't feel good about that. Even if I think his ceiling is good there, I don't want to have 40% Vooch in my drafts. And
many are saying if you take this approach and you auto draft off a sheet like this while you're at a dog park, not to name names, you will end up with 41% Miles Turner on certain slates.
And I think you put that like beautifully. It's like I put this, and I know, like, so I outsource to where I think these guys are way better than anything that I could eyeball bro science build, and then I take in my bro science. For me, I like to use this as like, okay, I can see that they have Daniel Gafford as a way better value in terms of raw ceiling, whatever you want to take into context, versus these other guys. So I won't push Gafford up like far, but like I'll try, like right now in my early drafts, like I'll acknowledge where that is, and I'll be like, okay, can I get him at that ADP? And then if I do, that's where like I feel perfect. That's when it's like, okay, now I feel even better. But like you said, no, I'll take, like, even right now, I'm taking Kristaps too, because these are like on a 1 game sample, just because they're ranked, like I like to say, 2 points, 0.2 points, 1 point, whatever, like marginally on a ceiling, that doesn't mean anything. Like anything can happen in these. And like, I'm a big proponent of Kristaps has a great matchup in taking Rudy Gobert and his ice skates out into the 3-point line. Like, dude can't guard anything out there. So like, it's just perfect for him. So like, no, I'll have it in the back of my mind. Like, these are where these sites are going, and I'll know a lot of it. Like John said, like a lot of it is in terms of salary, and I'll take that out of it and be like, the TJ McConnell play at one point where if you were playing those slates where it was like, TJ McConnell at one point was that nice 6th round pick you could get, but the sites were having him like, yo, he's a 10th round ceiling or 10th pick ceiling. And then he slowly moved up and moved up and moved up, and it got harder to swallow. But like, that's when I'll use the sheet and I'll be like, I see a big discrepancy here. And that's where it's different for me, I guess I should say. And you'll kind of stop and won't get over the weight. I'll be comfortable in my approach and having more Daniel Gafford than anyone else. Because if he does hit, and I like to trust these sites, I think he's just, it's going to put my lineups leaps and bounds. But then again, if he does, that being said, I like to have about 1 to 2, maybe like it's mainly 1 to 2 players I am very overweight in, and then I kind of get evened out. That's where I take my stands. Because if you do take a large amount of stands and they don't all hit, you're just studying your 6-leg parlay. So
no, I think that's a great way to put it. And one thing I'm curious about, how you guys think about this. I know you mentioned that you're still taking Porzingis at 1-2. I kind of, the way that my thinking is basically for any of the S plus and like S tier players, I will basically always take them at their ADP, or just take best available, because like, sure, my rankings or ETR's rankings don't totally agree with the current ADP, but like you were saying, it's a minimal difference, and generally I don't want to find myself in a position where I'm like massively underexposed to like Kawhi Leonard, because like Kawhi Leonard can drop 70 if he really feels like it. And making sure that you like kind of handle that
I've
Yeah,
experimented a lot with this. Like last night, I just went all in on Melo. Like I was just like, I'm just taking Melo from draft slot 102 through 106. Like if he falls, I just took last night. I just had like 40% Melo, and I mean like it's one isolated slate, and it was like a hyper exploitative strategy associated with it. But like I don't know how these strategies play over elongated samples, and that's something I really want to experiment with. Is like because T-Box does it every night, right? And we've seen T-Box sweep leaderboards, and we've seen him get really good. So
and Freezer does the same thing.
Yeah,
Like
does the same
I'll
thing.
always pay attention to who he's taking 1-1 because like there's nights where it's Embiid and Embiid's going like 1-4 or something, and he's just like, fuck it, I don't care, I'm taking Embiid. Yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah, that's to John's point. I mean, he's always going to relate it back to poker. Is knowing your like the player's play style and knowing who they're going to take is sometimes more important than anything else. And it's like if you get in a room with T-Box and Freezer and RT and El Padrino, it's like you can basically map out their drafts and be like, okay, I know who I'm going to get in these spots. And like you said, that's when you can be like, I'm going to differentiate here.
I just took Kawhi there. Who do you guys like out of like this next group?
It would be
here.
Paul George.
We have Kawhi though, so it's like kind of gross.
I know, that's why. What are you thinking, Andy?
I would take Booker because I'm an ADP maxi, and so like to me, you're getting great value on Booker here, drafting him two picks later than his ADP, and so that's how I think about it, and that's what I would do.
Okay,
I feel that
that'd be interesting.
My thinking is basically you're somewhat you're differentiating yourself in that if he's consistently being drafted at 6 and you're getting him at 8. Like there is some interesting value there.
Right.
You see this guy on the turn?
Yeah.
He just took DeRozan and Gobert at the 6-7.
He's getting ahead of it, man. He's getting ahead of it.
He wants his Q tags.
That's a way to take your Q tags.
He's getting ahead
and like you, to answer your question about how I handle like on these small slates, I will. It's like it's a cop out down to slate specific. Like I'll let ADP kind of ride it. The only time I'll really override ADP in the early rounds, I think it's like you said. I kind of want to just get exposure to the guy at ADP and take him there because that's where he's going and that's the only exposure. And the difference is so marginal in terms of projections. The only time I think it could be different is if these Q guys or if these big guys have a Q that's maybe different than the Embiid perennial Q tag and LeBron and stuff like that. It's like, and if you have an inkling of something that a coach is in are going to be,
what do you guys? Sorry, Nimi. What do you like here? Because I have no idea who to pick.
This is where the draft starts.
I would take Conley.
Yeah, is this Conley's first game after the trade deadline?
No, it's just
third.
Second
I
or
think.
third. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That feels pretty
he's been playing very real minutes.
Yeah, no, he real minutes, and then like I use these as a tiebreaker, so that's when I'll have my total. I'll be like, like highest total game, tied to the highest team total. So like that backs it up. So yeah, I'll take that. I'm perfectly fine with Ant and Conley 3-game slate. Like you got to be fine with players on the same team. So I would rather have it be
on this slate
the better players. Yeah.
Yeah, like otherwise you're just drafting worse players.
Exactly, 100%.
Like I said, sometimes you just gotta draft the best players. It's not that hard.
Plumlee feels nice if he gets the minutes, but like
has he been playing minutes?
What did he play? Kogi for me.
He played 17 in his first one.
Yeah, I think Kogi is like they're giving him all the run until KD comes.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Yeah, those minutes are ridiculous.
I'll take that. Yeah, I'll take 30 minutes. 30 plus in the fourth round.
On this slate, oh my god, every time. I think
that's where the draft really falls off is after McDaniels and Okogie.
That's what I was going to say to you. This is where the sheet and this is where my sheet and my style will tend to get different. This is where I'll tend to take more fades and be more confident in not having it. Like Terrence Mann, totally get that, but I just the projection and what they have in there. I have guys that I think are just I know marginally better, and on a small slate like this, I have to have some, but I'll like to take Terrence Mann probably at the 5th round or more. Like I know it's not that much of a difference when you get him, but like it just feels tough to take him. And even 5th round, it's only like 3 picks, so it's not even that big a drop. But like, I agree with that.
I'm a much bigger proponent of fading ADPs and being like, You guys can draft this guy. I don't care. The thing that I like very strongly feel you should not do is reach for players. That's what I feel like is not the right strategy.
Actually, the night that you came second or third there, Andy, for like the 3K or whatever, Numi was very complimentary of exactly that night where it was like you dodged all the landmines.
Yeah, that was so like for us, and you can tell, and maybe it could just be the box that we're in, or I'm using the wrong term, but like the little group that we're in, we all
filter bubble
projections, and we do the same thing. So it's like we one person kind of takes a hit, and a bunch of hits. We're all doing the same thing because we're all just going up. And then to see you just like you had that one. I'm pretty sure you had another couple that were like slowly could have had a chance for that. To see you up there, I was just like, yeah, that's impressive because I'm pretty sure it was a trade deadline, and you were just
it was a tough night.
Yeah. And I was saying that on there. I'm like, whatever you think in the morning or the night of the morning, even 2 hours before, like this time, just throw it out the window because a lot of stuff is about to just be flipped on its head. Players that you don't even know names are going to be available.
The funny thing with that, so if I'm correct here, doesn't Underdog show you your drafts in chronological order that you did?
Correct.
Yes.
It was my first draft of the day.
Wow.
Nice.
Do you know, was that like early morning, like out of bed?
It was probably like a 7 a.m. draft. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what we're hearing is basically as soon as we get out of bed, we should just pump 20 drafts. Don't worry about anything.
Do you guys want to take
not
the
kidding,
Anderson
when I do that,
or the Gapper?
Basically no red badges.
I would take Kyle Anderson.
Okay.
Take the swing on the Q tag.
Slow-mo.
Doesn't Kyle Anderson fit the same narrative of DeRozan though, where it's like, why bring him back tonight?
It looked like he played the very last game.
Oh, did he play the last one?
It's the price. He's near 5th and 6th round that it doesn't really matter, and his ceiling it's better than I have the better chance than any of these guys. It's like using Andy's bro science. It's like, what do you like? Legitimately, I think Kyle Anderson has one of the best ceilings in this range.
What about Grayson Allen with Middleton
I kind of
out
like
now?
it, and I have like a little bro science behind this as well. The Bulls. So I don't know what Caruso's minutes were last night. I'm trying to look that up right now.
But the bottom of that board?
But the Bulls blew a 24-point lead to the Pacers last night. They played like 8 guys. Caruso played 30 minutes, so he's interesting, but he doesn't he's probably not good enough to. I mean, he's a fine 6th-round pick.
I think Caruso is very interesting. It depends if he also plays on the back. So that's the one thing is
he's gonna have to. They only played like 7 dudes last night, and they all played like 40 minutes.
I assume he plays too, but yeah, that's why we're waiting for that news. And I think he becomes 100% viable if DeMar's out. I definitely think he becomes a click in the 6th round if DeMar's out, and I think he still has a case in the 6th round. Like when you get to the 6th round, I really feel like you're just kind of. I mean, look at that poster nut bag cat took him. Trying to figure
PNBC
out
baby.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So I like this game is interesting to me because the Bulls are just abysmal. They're having a terrible season. Blew a huge lead on a back-to-back against the Bucks when we're like really starved for these late round picks. Kind of like leaning into the Bucks blowout narrative. Like I don't think the Bulls are a team that's going to rally off a bad loss. Like their season has just been tragic, like I said. So yeah, I really like that Grayson Allen pick, and you could probably get pretty gross with some of those Bucks.
Andy, do you have time for one more?
Yeah, actually, I told you guys I had a hard out at 1. That meeting was canceled, so I no longer have a hard out at 1. So
cool. Let's do it.
Hey, I want to hear just real quick.
I think I have a hard cap of like 3 of these drafts before.
I want to ask Andy what he thinks about these other contests, and like, have you entered and dabbled in these influx of new contests that we continue to get? I mean, we started out with just the main contests, and then us sickos clamor for more, and then we get the $25 12 max, the $100 single max, and that now beefed up more. They've changed the full court press regarding. Thank you for not doing a full court press today. That was great. They've changed the full court press to the crossover, which is much needed. So people that lack the basketball knowledge can go.
Whoa! Hey, motherfucker! I'm right here.
We can go do a little crossover.
Hey. You are talking to not the one, but the 2-time Dunk 2 champion, sir. What basketball knowledge? How many dunk championship rings you got, my friend?
It's
God,
true.
I
It's true.
can't even. I might have to close this thing down.
But have
I'll
you
let's say
played these other contests, or do you just stick to the main?
a bit. I sometimes will play the dunk. I like that one. I tend to not have enough time to do all of it. Like I think all things equal, if I had the time, I would want to max enter like the main $5 slate for the night.
Mm-hmm.
And so like since I don't have time to do that, I don't have as much time to do the other ones. But I do think that playing those smaller max entry ones is really interesting. Like I don't know. I would like to spend more time like paying attention to them and seeing kind of how they play out. But I'd have a feeling it was like decently different from the 150 max.
Yeah. So I was wondering.
Yeah,
I was gonna
Sam
wonder if
wins
you
every
played
night.
them. If you played them and if your strategy changed. And then basically my only other question was like if you had a small amount of time, say like you could fire off 12, 15 drafts, which is the dunk. Would you fire off your 10, 15, 20 in the main or just not play it? Or would you maybe like, I'm going to actually do the dunk tonight or put some there?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely like, I mean, in my opinion, you're way better off max entering than playing in a tournament where someone else is max entering and you're not.
Gotcha.
And so if I was only playing a couple drafts a night, I would definitely, like, it probably would be better off max entering all the other tournaments and then playing the Thursday night hoops. But I like going for the high volume stuff because I think it's more interesting.
Yeah.
Cool. So safe to say that when you were doing all the FanDuel stuff, actually, I think you said this earlier, that you were kind of like focusing on like the 150 maxer, like overall strategy.
Yeah. I think that's the most, like, the other stuff is just way higher variance and just like, when you're only putting in a single entry, obviously you're hoping that your one bullet works. I find myself a little bit more interested in the like construction of a larger kind of strategy stuff. But like, yeah, if you only have time for one draft a day, you should be playing a single entry draft.
Yeah, I like that. Well, how many were you putting in for the BRs there, Andy? Because I used to see you on Sunday morning all the time.
Oh, I was ripping those. And I'm fucking awful at the weekly NFL. It's so bad.
They're really hard.
Like you
Yeah,
can, like
they're
ADP,
really hard.
like going straight off ADP, and that will not serve you. Like it will just straight up not serve you, and that's what makes it really tough.
Yeah, it depended on the week. If it was a week where I was like sitting on the couch all Sunday morning or like home for the weekend, I would rip a lot on that weekend. And also like sometimes like some weeks were just more fun to draft than others.
Oh yeah.
But then so anywhere from like I think a couple times I got up close to 100, but normally I would do like 25 to 50. And then I did a lot of best ball for the regular season and playoffs. Actually, I did pretty well. I finished 19th in the gauntlet.
Oh, nice. That's good.
Yeah.
How many players did you have in the Super Bowl?
I had 5.
No shit.
Yeah, I didn't have a quarterback.
Oh, okay.
Who do you guys like here?
I like Edwards, but I mean, like we can go ADP since we're here with the
with the ADP.
Yeah.
Who do you like, Andy?
The ADP apologist.
Yeah, I would probably take Kawhi, but it depends. It would depend for me actually based on how many times you were going to draft today. Because I already watched you draft a Kawhi. If you were going to do 3 more drafts today and you were done, I would have taken Edwards. If that's not the case, I basically would assume that over enough drafts it'll even out, and I would get a fair amount. And if it's not, then like I'll take that as a sign that there's something else going on that I need to kind of figure out.
I think you could bro science like Kawhi and do like a hard 103 just because he's playing like he's really like playing good ball lately. Really, really important game against the Suns. I mean, they're going to be like one of their top contenders now with I mean, they always were, but now with KD there. So big game for them. I think you can kind of buy into him putting up a pretty easy 50 burger.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that shout. The effortless 50 burger.
Kawhi just does it, man. I think we kind of forget like how incredible of a basketball player he is sometimes.
Yeah.
He's
we
special.
get the Chicago decision here. I think this is going to be one of the big slate ones. Interesting to see Nick pushing up Holiday there. I was going to ask you guys, who do you guys like, Levine or Vooch?
I think Vooch. That's me being cute though.
Okay.
Yeah, that's also something else that I think is like important to think about too when I talk about like drafting by ADP. Like their ADP difference is 0.3. I consider them the same essentially,
Right.
and I'm really comfortable taking either one there. Like last night for a while, who was it? It was Brandon Ingram and Deontay Murray. Like literally had the same ADP for a long time, and so I would just kind of whatever else. If I had Trae Young on my team already, I'd take Ingram. Depending on who I drafted already, I'd draft a certain player, and I try to be like pretty flexible there.
I thrust Levine up over that full tier last night. So mine was Levine, and then the two Heat guys who were like 17, 18. Then Ingram was like, I think Ingram was behind Murray.
He's like 21 or something.
Yeah. Something
That's
like
what I
that.
remember.
Yeah.
So I would
the Q tags, yeah.
I kind of think DeRozan plays.
Oh, this one's on you, buddy. You want this? You want this third round DeRozan on a Vooch team?
I think he plays, man. I don't know.
Okay.
Like they had 7 guys play like 35 minutes and they in a demoralizing loss.
Well, so
I think they need. Yeah.
I also think that this is the right strategy though to take with something like drafting a DeRozan, where like I think one thing when you're trying to get cute with Q tags and whether or not people play is also being very intentional about like, okay, in the scenario where DeRozan plays, what do I not want? And what you did was you skipped over Levine to draft Vooch. And so like to me, that's the right scenario to be drafting for when you're saying, I think DeRozan is going to play. And so I think like that's the other kind of important part with stuff like that is like whether or not you think DeRozan is going to play is like kind of irrelevant. You just want your teams that you construct for both scenario to be like thoughtful about whether or not he's playing.
Yes, and he and Levine would kind of cannibalize themselves a little bit there.
Yeah, we thought we were smart last night, or I thought I was smart last night doing that with Malcolm Brogdon and jumping the Derek White and Tatum in the 6th round twice on stream yesterday. I was like, yeah, well, they're both not going to play. Then who do we need? The guy you need is Brogdon, fantasy point per minute. He's going to play 40 minutes.
Yeah,
they might as well
fully faded Brogdon last night. That one I felt good about. Because I mean, I don't know what it is with him, but he played like, 40-something minutes the night before. And I just don't trust him to like play. Yeah, I don't know what happened to him.
I know he was great on the Pacers. Yeah, I don't know if it just like without the usage, he just doesn't play the same. But I loved that acquisition whenever they brought him on.
He's just like so brittle too. I feel like I don't trust him to play. Like right when I saw he played 40 minutes, I was just like, all right, I'm not drafting him tonight.
This is a pretty gross window here. We get the ADP discount comparatively to everybody else on Plumlee, but I don't know how I feel about that. We could take the Kyle Anderson, but then we have 2 Q tags. What do you guys like?
I don't have a strong feeling on it.
Yeah,
I do hate
Anderson, I guess. Let's just like lean in. Let's get
lean into that ceiling stuff, boys. I got like a macro question right now. Who are we thrusting up now? Like, should Jrue Holiday be going like Nick just took him at 9? Should Holiday be going like ahead of Levine, Ayton, Paul, Booker, George, any of that tier now that Middleton's out? Like, what are we looking for a usage split? Numi, you got any magic numbers?
Yeah, I can pull it up. I don't have it at the top of my head because I was full focused on not looking at my screens, but I got you.
Yeah, what a great co-host.
Yeah, I gotta figure out who's all been in and out. Yeah, we're talking with Middleton out, right?
Yeah. Middleton out is like, does Jrue get a huge usage bump?
Roger, I just gotta make sure who's in and out for them. Bucks
or who else?
Well, the thing that also
there's no Pat Covington tonight.
That's what I was just gonna say. No Pat Connaughton tonight is also.
Yeah, I nailed it on his name. I said Covington.
Like you always do, bud.
Yeah. So
there's definitely no Pat Covington tonight.
Poco, they call him.
Oh goodness.
man.
Yeah.
I kind of like
Go-
Monte Morris. I kind of like Monte Morris a
Try and
lot
find a
against the
sample
T-Wolves.
if there is one that's big
What
enough.
position does Monte Morris play?
He's like a shooting guard. He's a
Yeah,
chucker,
point guard,
but,
shooting guard, whatever you
yeah.
want to call him.
So
but
like,
he's getting minutes.
yeah, all those minutes though were with Kuzma or Beal out, except for last night, right?
Correct. It's not sexy, but I mean,
Yeah, well, so like if you didn't take him, you probably jump all the way down to Craig because you're not taking White or Io there, or at least I
Right.
would.
Yeah, on this team. Yeah.
So we have 400 and 300 minutes. Those are the two biggest samples. And I guess Grayson Allen too.
Mhm.
I mean, and take it for what it's worth. I can try and take a guy or two off, see if we have a bigger one. It's Giannis that gets the bump. Surprisingly, yeah, at 38.7% usage. Drew is middling at a 24. Again, smaller sample. So let me just check these boys quick with that off, and then take a guy or two. But yeah, Grayson Allen, in fact, gets worse, which I don't understand.
What?
that's weird.
Again, small sample. You got to take it for what it's worth. But
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like this. I like this shout. Like, and we saw it last night too. Like he filled it up last night, right?
He played a lot. He was on the floor a lot.
Yeah, he played 33 minutes.
25. Yeah. 33 minutes, and he had 25 points last night. 36 fantasy points.
He's a fun player.
I think, okay, so let's talk about that for a second. If we are going with like an exploitative strategy in terms of like, Numi saying like DeMar DeRozan isn't playing today, does that mean you're boosting up the auxiliary pieces as well, Numi? Like, are you taking like Kobe White ahead of ADP because you're taking such a definitive stance on DeRozan?
no, let's try and get because of so here.
Oh shit, we're on the clock here. Who do we like? Jalen.
Andy, what do you
Noel.
think when you get to this spot? What is your
Reed?
first
You
instinct?
just close your eyes and pray, I think.
Joe
that-
Ingles with Connaughton out, or do we already?
Oh,
Joe
okay.
Ingles was someone that was interesting to me. I took him once. Like I feel like this is the range where I won't get. If a guy that I'm confident in isn't here, I'm not going to get overweight really anyone here. It's like I'm
Fair
just going to
enough.
try like Andy's approach. I'm going to try and stay the field as much as I can. I just don't have. It's just different until the dominoes fall on the slate, or a Gobert gets ruled out, something like that.
Yeah. One guy who I think is interesting to like take a couple flyers on is like Terrence Ross, who hasn't played yet for Phoenix. And it's like, who knows? Maybe he plays 25 minutes. Like no one has any clue. And so you can kind of, if everyone's going to be averse to that, grab a couple of them. Maybe you get lucky.
Good UW boy. Met him at a bowling tournament one time.
Did you seriously? God
Yeah.
damn, I can't stand your stories. Everybody. It's everybody at this point.
He was doing.
They got some like interesting depth. There's been a
volunteer
lot. There's a
thing.
lot of. Sorry, no. Go ahead.
No.
Go ahead. I want to hear.
No, it's irrelevant. He was doing a volunteer thing for like some special needs kids. He's a good guy.
Okay. Yeah. We
Yeah,
appreciate.
are you like frequenting a lot of bowling tournaments?
See, it's like it's the stories. It's like,
no, it's like
unbelievable.
my cousin's fiance, or actually wife now. She was like, she deals with like special needs children, and then they just needed a couple volunteers to come out and whatever. And he was the host, the attraction when he was with the Raptors.
Oh yeah, I forgot he was a Raptor for a minute there.
Mm-hmm.
He's really gotten around.
Yeah.
yeah, because he was with Orlando for a minute. I really like
Orlando. He's just clogging up whatever they got going on there at one point.
The Suns have acquired a bunch of like my favorite like bench players that I used to like to take really, really late. Like TJ Warren, for example, back in Phoenix. Like I've always like had an admiration for him.
Yeah,
Darius Bazley, like also like another guy that is just like a real cool 30 points, like just like every night. That's his ceiling and his floor. But like I don't know what kind of minutes we're gonna see against like the Clippers, Sans.
Guys,
KD
we got
stuff,
Kawhi
but-
again. We got Kawhi again. I can't justify taking anybody else here over
Looks like
Kawhi.
you're gonna have it looks like you're gonna have a Kawhi tonight.
That hurts whenever T-Box himself jumps Kawhi.
Jumps the shark? Oh, yeah. It's like,
and it's
damn
our
it.
third time.
Oh.
Like, all right.
Speaking of T-Box, should we tell the people? I think we should tell the people.
Oh, it's nailed down, right?
T-Box locked 30-minute segment next Wednesday. The man, the myth, the legend. Never meet your heroes, people.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So
Face reveal and
Rudman put us
everything.
in touch with him, gave us his email and stuff like that, and he's been nice enough to oblige.
The holiday man.
Holiday? I mean, we keep getting these same decisions over and over again. I do
I
think
like holiday here.
Yeah, you like Holiday. All right, let's do it. Holiday's just like, he seems like super boomer bust. Interesting there. T-Box going Kuzma over the 2 Chicago guys. Take
Wow.
notes, people.
I mean,
So he's
it's a
going-
great matchup, but
Yeah, Ant over Kawhi, which I think I would be doing too. And then I'm not sure I would be doing. I think I like the Chicago guys more, but he's going with the Kuzma over there. That's interesting.
Kuzma has been like sun running like this season. Like he's been absolutely incredible in terms of this fantasy production and just the year that he's having in general. But yeah, in terms of this tonight, I don't know. Like he's outprojected his expected win and his expected plus minus.
Counts through it.
Just flipped it on its head.
What do we like here, gentlemen? We got
Splash Mountain.
I think this is the tier.
Splash Mountain.
Yeah. I do like Brook tonight. I think last game he had really bad foul trouble.
Yes.
Oh,
and that's what I was gonna say too. People will
Box
like
score.
the
Watch
ADP will be artificially like like the recency bias. You can see it in what goes like the Cam Thomas. Like all of a sudden he's pushed up to the second round and they have guys back and he's literally going to be limited like stuff like that. A guy that had foul trouble, a guy that just had like a stellar game, like the Michael Bridges effect is going to happen. Like you said, like he's going to linger and he's going to be in people's minds like, well, look what he just did. Like until that 70 or 80 is whatever
70.
is out of the range of that box score, he's going to be an easy click for the casuals and an easy click for everyone. Be like, well, look what his ceiling was and what he just did. So, like, recency bias is something that we
have to face this Clippers bigs again. The Kyle Anderson Q tag, who I think in the tier of. Yeah,
yeah.
There's a
I'm interesting why they're. I'm interesting why.
Yeah, I've been taking Zubac as well.
Okay. Yeah, we
so like I'll look at minutes here around the industry because again I like to bring him in. I don't think we have. Maybe this is the time actually ETR kind of pops out, but Zub. I mean, look, we're looking at 28 for Zubac, and then 18.
Look at baby.
And then 22 and 19 for Plumlee. And you can just look at the recent games too and everything. Oh, there he goes, Gafford. Well, that's confirmation bias.
I love it so much.
But
I love it so much.
Andy, did you do any NBA best ball?
That's what I was going to ask you. Are you sweating these small ball or any of these drafts in there? I'm sweating some teams right now that are on the fringe.
I didn't, mostly just because I didn't have time to. So
Right.
I was with Allie. We were not in the United States for basically all of like July and August and half of September.
Oh wow!
And so it didn't really lend very much time for like the best ball stuff for both NFL and NBA. And like I literally couldn't do it because so I queued up a bunch of like slow drafts before I left the country.
Nice.
But for the most part, I couldn't do anything, so I don't really have any.
Yeah, I don't know if you've seen the format of it or anything, but I do think that there's like a big edge in that and something that I want to try to get into next season. I think for me, I was intimidated by it because it's like the drafts do get kind of ugly toward the end, but they're really shallow starting rosters. Like you only start 2 wings, like 2 bigs and or 2 wings, 2 guards and a center and a flex. Interesting. I feel like it would be up your alley.
This is the end of a tier for us, right?
Yeah.
Is that even a tier? Is Pat
I don't
Williams
know.
Yeah, this to me is just like a pure ADP thing, where it's just like you're getting in for a couple picks late, or you're reaching for someone else. Just take the guy who.
Yeah, there's an ADP gap. Andy's a value.
I feel like one question I wanted to ask you is: do you feel like volume players have the advantage on these small slates, especially because of the combos that they can get? And I know that's just maybe I guess you can say it for the large slates too, but I feel like if you're doing a small amount of entries, you have a better shot when it's a larger player pool and you have like you said, the 30 to 50 guys. When you get here, it's just simply you could do the strategy I talked to John about, kind of take your guys early on and then just litter different combos of guys in the back, and then you're stacked with like the most opportunity of combos, basically.
Yeah, I think so.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's kind of my thought too. Is like my initial thought is like, I don't want to do too much on these small slates, but it's like if you're gonna lean in, you gotta at least lean in a decent amount and not just put in some. And then if I am gonna put in some, I gotta have a play style that replicates just a small amount of entries.
Sorry, Numi, who do you guys like here?
I mean, Eric Gordon. Yeah, Eric Gordon, Denny. I mean, I'll take Denny sometimes. I don't know what his role is with all the guys back, but
Gordon feels good.
Gordon feels
Torrey
good.
Craig, Gordon.
All right, let's take Gordon this time.
You'll get whatever you can from Torrey Craig.
Let's take a third clipper. Let's take a third clipper for no reason whatsoever. That was dumb.
Well, see,
in the rake,
there's
baby.
Torrey Craig.
And then T-Mox takes Craig.
He's just taking everything that I was saying. Well, that's one thing that I was thinking this morning is like, if a lot of the field, or I perceive most of the field taking a lot of players from the high total teams, a lot of players from these, and it's the only gap between these totals are 7 points. So my thought would be to do that thing. It's like I say on stream, I'm fine with getting multiple Milwaukee, Minnesota, Washington. Like, I won't want to try and get 3 Clippers, Chicago. That I think actually just doing that and saying these other guys, it's spread out. Like you're leveraging the field. If a lot of the field is just going for Milwaukee, Minnesota, and Washington, and not being willing to embrace that the variance of a 3-game slate, and maybe the Clippers end up putting more points or just the same amount, and those guys equal their scores. Like, that's one interesting, just actual game theory and strategy of construction versus like actual player takes. It's just kind of flipping that. Like, I'm fine with playing these guys from that. Well, I'm fine with playing anyone. Just basically just like, I'm fine with getting 3. Because if you look at it, Chicago, you wouldn't think, but they're the lowest total team. So having the guys from there, it's just like, but it's like, I don't know, people are doing that just fine, but people don't want to have multiple Clippers and Phoenix, it seems. So just kind of building those like tendencies.
I think it's comfortability in the names. It's like you feel comfortable clicking on those names instead of clicking on like the Torrey Craigs and the guys that I don't know, right?
That's fair.
Oh man. I think we hit the wrap it up box there. I think the 3-game slates, like, they're fun to draft and they're good to do on your own, but like they don't make for great content there. The drafts look the same every time. We need those 10.
We could have talked about the 3-point contest and the dunk contest probably.
Yeah,
and had a better time.
You guys got to give yourself some flowers. We sold the hell out of that. I think we just boosted the fill rate on that by a good 10%.
Hey, this is the big takeaway from Blake here. They wanted Nez model. No Nez model.
Models in the shop. The models in the shop.
Yeah, it's getting tinkered with
repairs
today.
After yesterday. Oh man, that's good. Hey, and Numi, to your point that we were just talking about in the draft, a smart man once said that there is no substitute for volume in these contests. I'm not sure who that.
Yeah, I know.
Is.
Nez preaches it all the time.
Oh yeah, was it?
Yeah, all the time.
Oh man! All right, let's hit the wrap it up box. Andy's busy man. Got to go take care of. It sounds like he's having a full house reno in the background too. Sounds like
there's interesting timing for all this, but
no worries at all, dude.
Oh man, yeah, appreciate you so much, man. That was good. Great to have like another player of like, I'm not gonna call us good players, but another quality player to join us, an actual good player to join us 3, right? No,
thanks for having me. This is fun.
Yeah, I love getting the differentiating perspective on like the same game, right? And it's like we all feel similarly, but then we all feel starkly different in like certain avenues, right? And it's kind of what builds each player's play style and builds like their own, because the game is so simplistic yet so deep, right? So yeah. All right, man. Appreciate you guys so much for hanging out. Hit that like, hit that sub on the way out the door here. Go follow Andy on Twitter. You're already following him. Who am I kidding? Yeah. Anything else?
Good to go.
All right. Everybody's favorite time of the show. The end. Peace.